Built in Camps Bay, the property took shape in 2 phases. At first, it was a double story, until 3 years later, the top floor was added to maximize views. By the time designer Andre Kleynhans was asked to redo the interiors and decor, the house had been rented by a bachelor from Durban. He wanted it to feel like his hometown and to be both a party pad and a real livable home.
Andre, I was immediately drawn to this garden. How beautiful is it?
Isn't it lovely?
What inspired the design?
The garden was inspired in part by the sort of subtropical rainforesty look over here, and I wanted to create a little bit of contrast, so we did this architectural deck area over here to show off the lushness of the garden on one aspect and create an area of calm and relaxation over here.
Speaking of relaxation, you even have a jacuzzi.
Yeah, it used to be a jacuzzi. It's now a Japanese hot spa bath. It even has a little pebble bed with a little cascade of hot water that runs over it, and it creates a wonderful atmosphere, especially on early mornings. You can see the mist coming off the water, and it is really relaxing.
How have you managed to accommodate for Cape Town's unpredictable weather?
What we've done is we have fitted weather screens that separates the seating area from the deck area. So even when it's extremely windy or when it's raining, just let the blinds down. There's a ceiling mounted heater on the veranda ceiling that heats the veranda up. And then we've got the movable fire pit, which sometimes spends its life out here. And it still allows you to use the outdoor space even when the weather isn't optimal.
With a garden looking to a Southeast Asian theme, the interiors had to blend in. The original look was transformed with understated glamour, simple colors, and fabrics which invite touch.
Andre, what was the brief the client gave you?
The interesting thing about this project is that my client is a tenant and not the owner of the house. Previously, the house was used for holiday rentals, so it was quite beachy, summery. And one of the key things that he asked for is that we make it feel more like home.
How did you manage to achieve it?
We used an assortment of materials and fabrics, some of them pretty luxurious and others a bit more textured, and everything we used in moderation. So even though there are beautiful velvets on the sofa, there's not a lot of it. And you know, the hand-woven rug, there's not too much of that. So it's the idea of creating a balance between the comfortable and the visual.
This room really feels quite spacious.
It's a very important thing for me to make sure that spaces are slightly underfurnished. The room should only be complete once the people who are going to use it is in it. So we are usually slightly towards a little empty. I mean, I wouldn't call it minimalist, but just slightly empty, not overcrowded. Every item or every piece that we put in here is bold and confident, and each item speaks for itself.
Because the client leases the house, none of the structure in spaces like the kitchen and bar has been changed. The new feel, color, and style has mostly been achieved with furniture.
You mentioned that the client is a tenant. Was that a consideration when selecting the pieces?
At the outset, we decided that we would make everything modular so that it could be easily moved from one place to another should the client move to another space at some point in time in the future. From the sofa, which 3 separate pieces, to the service, which is quite a long service, and we needed the sort of dramatic sweep of that server in the entrance. But it's 2 pieces, so if he ever moves, we can place them separately or place them differently depending on the space that he might move to. This is also true for the outside furniture. Everything is modular. It could be reconfigured into different arrangements depending on either the occasion or if he moves to a different place and the outdoor setup might be different, then the furniture can be used differently.
The same goes for the charcoal steel tables, custom designed by Andre's company.
The dining room tables are also modular. There's actually 2 of them that pushes together for larger dinners, and if needed, they can be separated into 2 parts.
Is that chalk?
That is indeed. It's a fun aspect of the table. So the host can just write the names of these guests about their place settings, or you can write the recipe for the meal you're about to have, or a menu, or a thank you note, quirky comment, or anything interesting about your guests on the table, or afterwards, if you're a guest, you can even leave a thank you note.
When the initial double-story house was built, it didn't have sea views, so the architecture created interest within the walls, like a skeletal staircase which natural light and mountain views wash right through. It leads to an arresting Anton Smith sculpture as you land.
I I noticed there's quite a variety of art in the house.
Interestingly enough, most of the pieces of art we bought, especially for this project, for this house, there were specific spaces that needed works. The work's primarily driven by my client's preference and his taste. We just make sure that the art is the correct size and the correct intensity for the space that it's supposed to go. We've got some clear glass sculptures, some metal sculptures. There are some die-sec artworks in the master bathroom, ink work on paper, and some beautiful photography.
For those of us who aren't necessarily artistically inclined, how do you go about putting pieces in the right spaces?
Every space that requires artwork, one has to consider firstly the scale of the artwork. Some spaces require bigger works, and also the intensity of the artwork. It is preferable to have some pieces louder and maybe bigger and some pieces quieter, or the other way around, so that the eye naturally goes from the one work to the other, and all the artworks don't compete for your attention at the same time.
Not limited by theme, each piece catches the eye in its own way. If a morning run or swim at the beach isn't your scene, the gym is well equipped. Staying in bed is also an attractive option.
This room really makes a statement. Tell us about the contrasting colors you've used.
Well, as you can see, the room is basically neutral, dark offset against light, with the matte curtains and the slightly shiny wallpaper. And the darkness, of course, shows off the light of the pale sofa. On this side, the headboard is not much different from the wallpaper, so there's less contrast and texture there. But the idea of the masculine headboard against a slightly more glamorous wallpaper tells a story of a luxurious hotel room that you never want to leave.
What is it about this room that you particularly love?
I like the different fabrications used in the room that gives it its unique personality. I like the flannel of the cushions. It's like a man's suiting or a man's coat, offset against the sort of velvet, which is very plush and warm and inviting, and makes you feel like you want to jump into bed and just lie there, maybe read a book or watch a little bit of television, or just the whole idea that it's a large space, and the mirror over there makes it feel even bigger. And it's comforting and cocooning at the same time. And of course, the natural light, the view of the garden that comes from here, just adds to the magic of the space.
The middle balcony, off the bedrooms, creates a private outdoor family room. Clearly, the tenant is no longer the bachelor he was when he first came to live here. Watching winter waterfalls on the mountain while you take a hot bath or shower is a treat. But for 360-degree views, you head up to the third and last story. Here, architect Mark Zuckerman could frame almost the entire floor in steel and glass for one uninterrupted panorama.
Mark, this is a massive house on a small footprint. How did you achieve the scale?
Well, the client wanted a 3-floor house and to maximize on the height advantage that council allows, because the upper floor gets us great views. So we knew that it was going to be a big structure on a relatively small plot. The balance between external and internal was going to be incredibly important. Downstairs, we designed the garden areas that would flow very, very well into the internal, and everything opens out onto the outside area to maximize on the usable space that you're going to have. And upstairs, obviously, we've got a lot less space, but fantastic views. So from the external of the building, we knew we had this big blob, and we tried to use different textures, different colors, and different massings to try to cut it up so that you've got a 2-floor base for the building, and then a very light structure at the top, which kind of sails up, and it's made of steel and glass, essentially.
This level seems self-sufficient.
Yes, well, the client's brief to us was that he wanted a double dwelling, essentially, so that the upstairs could be a penthouse used on its own with separate lift access. So you'll notice outside there are 2 sets of double garages, and one services the house downstairs, the other one potentially could service the penthouse upstairs.
And Andre, I love what you've done with this space. It's very different to the first level.
Thank you very much. It's probably because there's much more glass and much less wall up here than downstairs. On the one side, it lets us see the wonderful view of the mountain, and on the other side, you can see the beach over there. Then we've got the advantage of the wonderful heated outdoor pool, which means it can be used for most of the year in Cape Town.
So wonderful.
Isn't it just? Yeah.
I also love the furniture pieces you've selected, particularly this table. It is gorgeous.
The table comes with its own story. We originally intended to bring it up the staircase, but in the end it's too big and too heavy, so we had to crane it over the side of the building, over the glass balustrade on a windy Camps Bay day. It was nerve-wracking. In the end, I think it cleared the balustrades by like a centimetre or so. I was so panicked, I was rocking backwards and forwards down there, hoping that it'll go smoothly. And luckily in the end it did, and here it is.
And it was totally worth it.
Absolutely.
With the light ever changing up here, Andre's checkered rug is brought to life. And the colour and print of scatter cushions is all you need to animate the sand-coloured sofas. Black chairs stand out like works of art against the rug, while nature provides the rest of the decor.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for showing me around today. I had a wonderful time, and I think it just goes to show that teamwork makes the dream work.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thanks.
As much as the tenant loves his home turf in Durban, Cape Town is growing on him.